Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely profound, deeply personal inner journey. We're going to explore the transition from obscurity to absolute trust. To do this, we'll unpack a really fascinating series of essays that look at the very nature of human struggle, the orientation of the heart, and basically how we navigate an increasingly complex modern world.
We're kicking things off with this truly arresting concept straight from the text. The material sword has returned to its sheath. Now, the author makes it absolutely clear. This is not a declaration of weakness, and no, it's not a surrender. Actually, it marks a fundamental evolution in how humans struggle. The tools we used in the past, well, they just aren't going to win the battles of today.
Okay, let's dive into this and contrast exactly how that struggle has shifted. Think about the past battlefield. It was physical land, right? Fought entirely on the outside, relying heavily on blunt force and literal material swords. But the modern battlefield is completely different. The struggle has literally moved inside. It's now being waged in the landscape of the mind, the heart, our emotions, and those really subtle internal feelings. The main weapon isn't force anymore, it's clarity.
And that shift inward brings us to Section 1, the new internal battlefield.
To understand why going inward is so absolutely crucial, we really have to look at the defining crisis of our modern age. You see, people today are drifting away because of a deep-seated distrust. When they don't see justice, their hearts get wounded, and when they don't see compassion, their hearts just dry out completely. The core diagnosis for that distrust is simple, but so profound. Obscurity kills trust. Obscurity is that incredibly frustrating gap between what someone says and what they actually do. It's when intent is just murky. Because this modern wound is a distrust born entirely of obscurity. Using force or violence to try and fix things, it just doesn't work. It only pushes the modern mind further into defense mode.
So, if obscurity and this reliance on external force are the disease, what exactly is the cure? That brings us to Section 2, the power of turning.
This introduces the very first action step, from the essays to help us actually navigate all this modern chaos and start healing that internal battlefield. And understanding what turning actually means is key here. It's defined as the orientation of the heart. It's the deliberate, conscious act of redirecting your inner compass away from the transient, fleeting things of the world and pointing it directly toward the eternal, absolute being. The text explains that when you turn your eye toward the divine, what once seemed like random, stressful chaos suddenly reveals an underlying order, a deep wisdom, and this beautiful, unseen mercy.
But how do we actively practice this turning? Well, through prayer. Prayer is described here as the voiced form of turning. It's saying, I am not sufficient, you are sufficient. Think about it, that is the ultimate acceptance of our own limits. It's the act of leaning completely upon infinite power, turning to the owner of causes, especially when the worldly causes themselves totally fall short.
Now, no physical doors might open immediately. Your external circumstances or problems, they might not be solved right away. And this brilliantly illustrates the cascading internal shifts taking place when we embrace that helplessness and refine our prayer. Your inner balance changes, your heart definitively moves toward tranquility, and beautifully, hope actually begins to grow again. The internal battlefield is literally being won.
But this internal shift isn't just about our emotions. It requires some heavy intellectual engagement too. Let's look at Section 3, purifying our thoughts.
I want you to really stop and ask yourself a stark question. Are we seeking truth or just superiority? The source text really challenges us to examine our intellect during tough times, engaging in what it calls the prayer of thought. When we argue, when we think, when we try to solve a problem, is our mind just driven by a desire for applause? Are we just trying to prove our own pride? Or are we genuinely seeking truth and real solutions?
Let's break that down a bit more. Think about corrupted thought. Even if it happens to be factually correct, it's constantly seeking applause. It elevates the owner rather than the truth itself, and it's just heavily tainted by pride. On the flip side, pure thought doesn't demand that you be the most brilliant person in the room. It just demands purity. It actually heals the heart. And as the text so beautifully puts it, pure thought carries the scent of prostration. It's a deep, deep humility before the truth. And the ultimate measure of whether your thought is pure or corrupted is found in this single concept, nearness. Nearness is the anchor for all of this. It's both the beginning and the end of the search. The essays explain that if a thought, honestly, no matter how simple it is, brings you closer to your Lord, it's pure. But if a thought distances you, I don't care how clever or dazzling the words might seem, that thought is clouded. So, armed with that, we can confidently bring this back out into the external world. Section 4. Defining true clarity.
Since physical force really only closes the heart, and as we've seen, obscurity just breeds distrust, the true weapon of our current age has to be completely different. That weapon is clarity. And here's how the text defines it. Clarity is the purity of intention, the precision of measure, and most importantly, the harmony between your word and your state. Basically, your actions have to perfectly match your speech. The essays state that the absolute greatest modern struggle is precisely this: learning to speak the truth without wounding the heart, and somehow winning the heart without distorting the truth.
So how does that clarity practically manifest in our daily lives? Well, it begins the moment we see our own ego or nafs not as something we own, but merely as a trust. It means reading existence in the name of its owner, what the text calls reading with bismillah. When the I finally steps aside, that whole claim of ownership dissolves, and that is when true mercy and justice can finally appear.
And that beautifully links us right to our final act. Section 5. From clarity to trust.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this is where the internal turning perfectly answers that external modern crisis of distrust we diagnosed at the very beginning of the explainer. It's a really powerful step-by-step philosophical equation. Step 1. You develop an awareness of trust, realizing your ego isn't actually yours. Step 2. That humility generates true clarity. Step 3. A clear heart naturally blossoms into a perfect balance of justice and compassion. And finally, Step 4. That justice and compassion create the exact thing the modern world desperately needs right now: trust.
This brings our entire journey beautifully full circle, perfectly summarized in this couplet from the source text. When compassion and balance unite within a clear heart, the sword returns to its sheath, only conscience speaks. When you embody clarity and trust, you just don't need the material sword. The conscience does the work for you. The battle is officially won from the inside out.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly important thought to ponder. How will you cultivate your own inner compass today? Whether it's through the conscious practice of turning, maybe choosing pure thought over that itch for superiority, or just striving for absolute clarity between your words and actions, always remember that the true battlefield is inside. I really hope this explainer sparked some profound curiosity for you today. Keep learning, keep turning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.